Let's go ahead and just jump into Monday night real quick, though. This is an actually really interesting game. I actually think this might be a more interesting showdown than the one last night, which obviously it didn't end up how we thought it'd be. Going in, we thought it'd be point shootout, just throw, crazy. Didn't end up being that way. But this game is going to be very, very interesting. You have Pittsburgh on the road at Tampa Bay. Team totals. I'm looking at Evan Silva's matchup column, but he says they're at 27.5 and 26.5. I'm going to pull up Fantasy Live right now. But anyway, high team totals. Yeah, 27.75 and Steelers are at 26.25. So the Bucs are favored by 1.5. That line has moved 4.5 points onto the Bucs, actually.
Yeah.
Total sitting at 54. So pretty interesting. There's obviously you got lots of debate when you think about the MVP itself. But I'm going to pull up the pricing right now, and that might make it a little easier. I like going to DK first. I mean, I guess we should probably be completely like a pair. I barely ever play single game on FanDuel. I might throw out some GBP teams. I don't like the single game format on FanDuel. I think that it limits edge for cash game players, just because you have two pieces of this. You have the MVP on DraftKings. It changes the pricing. On FanDuel, there's no pricing change for the MVP, that obviously adds a huge dynamic of strategy when you're talking about pricing changing for the MVP spot, because suddenly if you think there's a middling, look at Golden Tate yesterday, like I think he was the fourth or fifth most expensive player on the slate, and Taylor went with him MVP, and that gives you a decent amount of edge if you think that he can match Matt Stafford, for example, just through his receiving yards, which honestly with Golden Tate's volume and the matchup kind of made sense. Then you've got extra cash to spend at your flex, and I mean that just at your extra 5 spots, and that just also there's actually 3 pieces. The second piece would be that defenses are on DK, and a lot of games. This game is going to be one of them, but a lot of games you're going to end up with defenses just because of their pricing. And the third thing is that they have the extra spot. They have 6 spots, so a whole extra spot on your roster to try to gain edge over the field. DraftKings is a spot to go if you're playing showdowns for me. And I actually think the same thing about soccer. I like the soccer showdowns on FanDuel because there's no MVP still, and I like when there's no MVP in general. But I prefer still on DK for that as well, just because of the scoring for the most part on that. And you also can – they also on FanDuel limit you to 1 defender on soccer. But anyway, sticking with football, I mean, I guess Antonio Brown is the highest priced player, because I was going in thinking about this game and thinking Antonio Brown's probably the MVP, and he's priced exactly like that. One thing I wanted to mention about Antonio Brown making me think that he might be the way to go as MVP, which I saw this in the matchups column. I mean, obviously there's the lock. By the way, if you're playing these showdown slates, Evan Silva's matchups for the game you're playing is like a must. Like just knock that out real quick and then do whatever else you want to do. Read Evan Silva's matchup columns for it. That should give you a decent amount of insight. He a lot of times he talks about it from a yearly fantasy perspective, but still you're going to get a lot of insight from that. But anyway, they haven't been able to shut down number 1 receivers this year yet. Michael Thomas, 16 for 180 and a touchdown in week 1. Nelson Aguilar, 8 for 88 and a touchdown. So in the first 2 games of the season, also Ted Ginn went 5 for 60 and 1. So they struggle in their secondary has struggled this year. And I think that if they're going to force feed AB the ball, I mean, AB is like a lock in your lineup, right?
Yeah, AB's a lock
in some position, like somewhere.
Yeah, AB's a lock somewhere. I don't know if it's going to be the MVP spot, because this is a game where you really want a lot of offensive weapons, and plugging them in there kind of limits you. But plugging in any of these guys in the MVP spot, I think there's going to be a big James Washington game coming here soon. He's a really talented player, and he was up to 81% of last week's offensive snaps. He got 5 targets. He only caught 1 of them. It was for a touchdown. But he was second on week 2 air yards for the Steelers, right behind Antonio Brown. Or not right behind. He was like 60 yards behind Antonio Brown. But he could definitely be a big time sleeper who especially for a showdown. I mean, he's sitting at 3.6K regularly. This is James Washington. He's sitting at 6.3K regularly. And then what is that, like 5.4 in the captain spot? So, like, I think that might be a way to go as far as just getting all the offensive weapons on this. I also like James Conner in the captain spot, and this is more of a strategy thing. But a part of the reason what really sold me on Sonny Michel in the captain spot was that if he does have a big game, a lot of people won't have big games. Like if one running back has a big game, it means that, I mean, most likely it means that team held possession of the ball. He scored the touchdown, so the other guys, the wide receivers, who obviously have massive ownership on a showdown slate, the quarterback, they didn't get the touchdown. Your guy got the touchdown in the captain spot. So I think, and obviously they got possession. The other guys aren't racking up points. Like, just think about if you played Kerryon Johnson yesterday, like you were eating because the Patriots weren't doing anything every time he ripped off an 8-yard chunk and the Lions let 40 seconds tick off the clock. Like 40 whole seconds just ticked off with Tom Brady and all these chalk guys on the sidelines. So I think that makes sense as far as playing James Conner. I mean, he's got the second highest snap share amongst running backs, right behind Zeke. Like last week, it was obvious he was going to get a dip in touches. They're not going to give him 36 touches back-to-back weeks. It's like, but this week might be that spike week again where he does get a lot of touches, especially if they somehow get themselves a lead in this game, because I think Mike Tomlin's going to want to keep Ryan Fitzpatrick and this really dynamic Tampa Bay offense off the field. And this is one way to do that.
What does his snap share look like recently?
It was just as high last game. He was like on the field for like all but a few snaps. I saw Steven Ridley take a few snaps. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up right now. I already looked at this Tampa Bay running back situation because the first thing I saw on DraftKings is that none of them are priced up. They're all priced way, way down. They're a home favorite, so obviously that was interesting. But
one thing to mention on James Conner, not to interrupt, Tampa Bay does have a good run defense, but they're susceptible to pass catching running backs. Alvin Kamara, Corey Clement, both gave him some troubles as a pass catching running back. James Conner, he's in I think like the top 10 in catches for running backs and receiving yards as well.
Guy that I've got a lot of interest in. Last week, they fell behind against the Chiefs, against the offense that has been efficient. Tampa Bay offense, even though it might be a little bit fluky, it's Tampa Bay and it's Ryan Fitzpatrick. So how much do we trust them? I don't know.
Yep.
If you do trust their offensive and you think that the Pittsburgh's going to be playing from behind in this game, James Washington's sitting at 3.6K on DraftKings. He had 5 targets last week, played like 80% of the snaps. Very, very dynamic player, which is the type of player we love getting on these showdown slates. Guys who, when they get the ball in their hands, can make something happen. And for the price of a kicker, I mean, he's got a lot of upside. I don't know how much he's going to have run inside of the red zone, which is definitely a concern.
I mean, he caught a 14-yard touchdown, so
yeah. Oh, true. Yeah.
Or whatever that's worth, you know. I didn't watch that game or that touchdown, so I don't know how it happened, but 14-yard touchdown means he got a target from 14 yards away.
There's no doubt that showdown pricing has already this season become a lot tougher as we get a little bit of sample size, and the fact that we're seeing a guy who got 80% of the snaps last week at 3.6K in a good matchup, it's definitely, regardless of how he ends up doing, if he does get 80% of the snaps, it's a pricing mishap. He should not be that low at 80% of the snaps. Another guy who's going to get a lot of snaps, and if that's what you're looking for, I mean, Peyton Barber. If you think Tampa Bay gets up in this game, which Vegas thinks they get up in this game, Peyton Barber is going to be the guy who they have shown and said, regardless, especially if Ronald Jones is not active in this game, he hasn't been active, so he's not going to steal touches. Even if he is active, I think Peyton Barber is still going to be their guy. 19 touches in week 1, 16 touches in week 2. He's not going to catch the ball, but I haven't put up FanDuel yet, and we'll go there in a second. But he's guaranteed touches at 4.6K. So, they get in the red zone, they could give him the ball and that sort of thing. I'd be interested to see what his carries are inside of the 5. I haven't pulled it up yet, but
no, I like it. He's sitting at 8.5K on FanDuel. That's a good play.
That's a good price too. That's a really good price on FanDuel.
Yeah, especially because FanDuel is not a PPR site. But yeah, I think Peyton Barber's a good call because again, it kind of goes back to that whole if this guy goes off, no one else probably is going off. So you want to have that guy that could kind of end the game as far as fantasy friendliness goes.
I think when you're going, I think one question you're going to have is looks like everyone's probably going to be able to fit one of these Tampa Bay wide receivers. And on FanDuel, I just went over to FanDuel now since you said that.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Godwin is 3K less than Mike Evans. Deshaun Jackson is 1.5K less than Mike Evans. On DK, you're getting another big discount for Chris Godwin, 3.2K, and for you're getting a 1.6K discount for Mike Evans. I'm guessing you're not going to want to play two of these guys. The build might end up that way. It kind of fluctuates throughout the day. But if you are going to go with one of these guys, which one do you think you'll go, depending on price?
Between Mike Evans and who you said?
Just all those receivers, depending on price. Which one do you think you want to go? Yeah.
Are we including AB?
No. Just Bucks.
Oh, just Bucks receivers. Oh yeah, I'll go Mike Evans out of these guys. It's even price included. I'll go Mike Evans because there's a $1,600 difference on DK between Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson. And Deshaun Jackson, I guess I should preface this by saying that this Pittsburgh secondary is awful. It's banged up and it's bad. And ever since they've lost Ryan Shazier, who's obviously not part of the secondary, he's their linebacker, but ever since they lost them, they've just been getting decimated because you lose the heart and soul of your defense. So they've been giving up like over 30 points a game. So I'm definitely interested in a lot of these Tampa pieces. But, yeah, I'll start with Mike Evans. He leads them in air yards. He leads them in targets. Artie Burns, he's playing through a toe injury. Joe Hayden's going to come back, probably not at 100%. Which I like if he's going to be one-on-one with Mike Evans. Because Mike Evans, if you think about, like, literally 2 years ago, maybe even last year, but I'll say 2 years ago, we were talking about Mike Evans as being one of the best receivers in football, and nothing has changed. Like, this dude is still a freak talent. He's a threat down the field. He can run any route. He's a threat across the middle. He's a threat deep. So he's gonna have a really good game. I like Godwin as well because he's second. In targets, he's got one more target than Deshaun Jackson, but Deshaun Jackson's second in air yards with 204. He's caught all of his 9 targets, which is one thing you kind of have to take note. Deshaun Jackson's not a guy who's really that efficient with his targets, and he's caught all 9 of them for 275 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that's kind of that efficiency that will regress at some point. Will it happen in a cupcake matchup versus Pittsburgh? I don't know. Probably not. But eventually it will happen. So keep that in mind, and it kind of gives you merit as to whether or not you want to fade him, because I probably will be fading him, even though he can wreck you in just one play. I'll go Mike Evans.
Historically, QB1s are the best plays on Showdown slates, just numbers-wise. But I think that with especially with the way that targets have been distributed through this Pittsburgh offense. Sorry, I'm just flipping over offense by offense here. But
no, it's fine.
I think there's a lot of merit to a Roethlisberger fade in this matchup. Just because Juju's playing 90% of the snaps, he's all over the ball. Antonio's playing 95% of the snaps, he's all over the ball. If you could fit James Conner with those two as well, you've pretty much got the entire offense just about. So I think there's merit to fading Roethlisberger here, especially at his price tag. He's the highest price tag on the slate. And Fitzpatrick, the merit of fading Fitzpatrick, if you think he's a fade. He's been OD efficient. I mean, he threw 28 times in week 1, 417 yards, threw 33 times in week 2, 402 yards. I mean, This is Ryan Fitzpatrick we're talking about, like that. It's a little bit absurd that he's getting those numbers with those attempts. It's worked out for him. I feel like he's hit someone deep once or twice in both games. I'm not going to go back and look, but I think he's had deep touchdowns in both games.
Deshaun, both games.
Yeah. Oh, it was Deshaun both games. I knew Deshaun had one this year. I didn't know if he had both. When I was
no, he may not. I know OJ Howard had a 75-yard catch and run touchdown. But I guess if you want to touch on him, I'm not that high on OJ Howard.
I was going to say OJ Howard and Godwin are a little bit in the same in the same type of – I think they're pretty touchdown dependent probably in this game, both of them. Godwin has been utilized the most in the red zone, but he's still got Mike Evans to compete with targets, who is a big body who can go up and get the ball. I'm not going to depend on Godwin's red zone usage to play him in this game. So I'll pass probably at his snap share right now. I'll probably pass on Godwin.
I'd rather just pay down and get like a Peyton Barber and hope. One note on Peyton Barber is there's like this rookie Ronald Jones who's coming for his job.
That's what I was saying. I think that I think he's at that price. The thing is that coaches have never indicated that Ronald Jones is going to get play over him at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So, he's just a good player, but
if he's active, it's definitely something to look at. It's definitely something to listen, keep your ear to the ground. It's crazy how much more keen we are on small little details from beat reporters on these showdown slates. Because anything can change my roster construction personally.
Like
last night I saw Mike Reese I listened to a little podcast Mike Reese did about and one of the topics that came up was was Michelle, and he was like, yeah, this seems like a game where Michelle's going to probably just get pounded, and he did. So,
Yeah, and he did. It's important. It's important.
Listen to those sharp beat reporters, the guys who actually know that they're talking about, that have an inside edge on the team, is very important on the Showdown slates. Obviously above that is game narrative in the narrative you want to go with, because like if you think that Pittsburgh's going to win this game, Peyton Barber has basically zero value at that point. So just keep that in mind. I think we probably talked about this enough. Do you want to try to build a team on DK real quick?
I think I might have one I could just throw y'all.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
I think this team's pretty nasty. It might end up being the team I end up playing, because it's like exactly what you were talking about that Ben fade. So it's got James Washington in the captain spot for 5.4K. And then I went with the Tampa Bay kicker. I want to get some action there. How much is the Pittsburgh kicker? He's 3.2. I can't afford him. Otherwise, I think I'd want the Pittsburgh kicker, or I'll just get on 5 dimes, go to props, and pick whoever's projected to score the most points, whoever's over-under is higher. But I like the Pittsburgh kicker. I think
real quick on James Washington. I just saw this. It was in the RotoWire blurb on DraftKings. And I didn't actually know this. So James Washington wasn't used in Week 1 against Cleveland, really, and he was the number 4 wideout in preseason. Justin Hunter was inactive. So another 2 guys you got to watch now: Ronald Jones and Justin Hunter, to see if they're inactive in this game.
Yeah, Justin Hunter was a healthy inactive versus the Chiefs last week. I don't think he'll be active this week. It looks like they want to get James Washington going, so I think they're going to keep Justin Hunter inactive. But if he is active, that definitely hurts James Washington a little bit. But aside from that, I got James Washington. I got this Tampa Bay kicker, Catanzaro. And then I got Antonio Brown, James Conner, Mike Evans, and Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah. I was just about to say you had a quarterback fade, but you don't have a quarterback.
So I got the Fitz to Evans connection, and I got the Tampa Bay kicker. So I'm hoping to get all my points through those 3 guys. I'm kind of fading that run game right now, but and then I got Antonio Brown, James Conner, trying to get all the touchdown equity there without Roethlisberger, and then James Washington in the captain spot, because if he does score a touchdown, I mean, it's a wrap. I'll catch everything, you know.
Yeah, if you're jamming players, for me, it's gonna be Mike Evans and Antonio Brown. They're gonna be my jams in this slate.
Yeah, and we got the angry Antonio narrative that we didn't even talk about.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, for me, there's no way I can fade Antonio on a single game. There's just no way. There's no way.
Then again, there was no way I would have faded Tom Brady last slate. So
there was a way I could have faded Tom Brady last slate. There was definitely a way. I mean, I knew that Stafford was the one over Brady. I was 100% on that. Now, if I was fading a quarterback, I was going to fade Brady. But I didn't do it because I have no balls. So
I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have faded him, but I can definitely see why. Especially with the Patriots.
Real quick on this slate also, just in case you don't know, if you're not getting our lineups or whatever, at Locks DFS, kickers are always in play. So at 3K on DraftKings, they're always in play. Sometimes they're priced up on FanDuel, but pretty much kickers. I mean, last night we saw Matt Prater 14 points against the Patriots. So these guys are always in play at 3K, especially if you think it's going to be a high-scoring game. They're going to be around the goal line a lot, or around on their side of the field a lot, as I guess is what I should say. So
yeah, I mean, just think about it. Steven Gostkowski last night. It was like Steven Gostkowski points responsible for or whatever was over. The bar was set at 9.5. Is that what the line was set at? And the over was -115. The under was -115. Just sort of a pick 'em, but 9.5, you know, if you think about that, that's like 3 field goals and an extra point. So like 3 field goals and an extra point is 4, 8, 12, assuming they're all kind of like middling field goals. That's 4, 8, 12, 13 points right there. That's a good score. You know, it's an amazing score. That's like 4x, almost 5x. So like,
I mean, there was a time when it looked like they were going to start pricing kickers up, and then they went back to putting them at 3K. So if they're going to keep putting them here at 3K, 3-1, 3-2, 3-3, 3-4, they're going to be in play every single showdown, every single one, especially in these ones where you expect these guys to score a lot of points and be around the end zone.